There's a guy, and he was driving through Mississippi, and he passed a sign that said, talking dog for sale, talking dog for sale. And he thought, well, that just can't be. And so he turned around to check it out, and there was a farmer sitting on the porch, and he asked him, do you really have a talking dog for sale? And the farmer said, well, yep, he's right around back. So the guy ran around back to check it out, and there's this big dog laying down in the backyard, and the guy walks up and he says, can you talk? And the dog says, well, as a matter of fact, I can. And he said, that's amazing. The dog said, yeah, when I was a puppy, I realized I could talk, and when my master found out, he called the CIA. And the CIA used me for undercover surveillance, and I did that for a long time, and as I got older, I worked airport security, doing seminars and training other dogs how to identify drugs and bombs and stuff. And I did that for a while. Then I met the dog of my dreams, and I got married, and finally I retired. And now here I am on the farm. And the guy backed up and he said, that is incredible. So he ran back to the farmer and he said, how much do you want for your talking dog? The farmer said, $10. He said, $10? Why so cheap? The farmer said, because that dog's a liar. He never did any of that stuff. Now, in the last session, I did a whole lot of talking, but I promise you I didn't do any lying, okay? It was all the truth. And what I told you was the absolute truth. I want us to go back for a moment and sum up the last session with 3 reminders. Look on your outline, guys. Here's the first one, 3 reminders. First of all, this is the most important one. I said that the paradox principle is the key to success, both at work and at home. You remember the paradox principle. We summed it up in one statement. What was it? 3 words. Die to live. Die to live. It's where you humble yourself and you learn something new, something outside of yourself because you really don't get it, not really enough in life to succeed. And you finally figure out what you need to do, and then you die a little to yourself in order to do it. And that's when you realize by dying a little, you experience more life than you ever imagined. It's a paradox. Death gives you life. Now, for the uninitiated man, the guy who's never experienced this before, he hears the term die to live, and what does he focus on? He focuses on the word die. That's all he hears, that he's got to die. And he believes that manhood is about getting your way, and that's how he lives his life. But he soon discovers that instead of bringing him life, it brings him a lot of pain. But some guys will just ignore the results and keep doing what they've always done, thinking that it's something out there or somebody else's fault that's making their life unfulfilling. On the other hand, the initiated man, the man who understands the paradox principle, he's the guy who has learned that death to self is a small price to pay for the life and the success that the temporary death pays back to him. And when the initiated man hears die to live, what word does he hear? He hears live. Live. Way more than he hears the word die. Now remember, the paradox principle is the key to success both at work and at home. Now here's the second reminder. Although we didn't emphasize it in the first session, I want to really make it crystal clear today. Here it is. Be aware of what I want to call the great nullifier. The great nullifier. In the last session, we looked into these 2 mirrors. Remember we said a fairy tale, mirror, mirror on the wall. Am I doing any good at wall? And as a man looks in the mirror of his work, what kind of reflection does he get back? When he looks at the mirror of his home, what is his home saying to him? And we said if he gets a positive image, he feels good about himself. His self-esteem is elevated. But if he gets a negative image, his confidence falls and he feels a deep sense of loss and pain. But listen, what if? What if he approaches these 2 mirrors and he's winning at work, but he's losing at home? What happens then? Or what if he's winning at home, but he's losing at work? In other words, he's 1 for 2. I believe that the pain and failure of the one will always nullify the joy and satisfaction of the other. It's kind of like catching the come-from-behind touchdown pass in the final seconds of the game, and then you look up the field and you see a yellow flag and you realize that you were called for lining up offsides. And that penalty nullifies your touchdown. Beware of the great nullifier. And that leads us to the last reminder. Write this down. True happiness for a man, true happiness for a man is winning in both. Winning in both. Say this, guys. One of two won't do. Say it with me. One of two won't do. Every man must win in both. And that really goes back to the beginning of time. Way back in a book called Genesis is the story of the first man, Adam. He was given 3 assignments by God to fulfill his life and bring him true happiness. 3 life-giving responsibilities. Here's what they were. He was told he had a work to do. He had a work to do. Every day, Adam looked in the mirror of his work. He was also given a woman to love. And he looked in the mirror of home every day in his relationship with her. And then finally, he was given a will to obey, God's will. Way back in Genesis, the need for the paradox principle is felt. For Adam to be successful in those responsibilities, he would have to learn how to die to live. He'd have to die to himself to obey God's will, to love his woman, and to fulfill his work as a man. Now, his first time out, Adam didn't do too well, did he? But we can learn from his mistakes, and we can tap into some great resources available to us today. And even though we won't be perfect at it, we can do well, both at work and at home. One of two will not do. If you're going to be truly happy, you have to succeed in both. Now, in starting in this session, we want to turn our attention to the mysterious world of women. And guys, it is a mysterious world. Okay, what is it that men need to know about women? It can make your head explode just thinking about it. Years ago in the musical My Fair Lady, starring Rex Harrison, there's this scene when Harrison turns to his butler, whose name is Pickering, and he asks the question that many men have asked today. He says, Pickering, why can't a woman be more like a man? And then he starts singing. Okay, that's a little girly, I know, but he starts singing. And he says, would you be slighted if I didn't speak to you for hours? Would you be livid if I had a drink or two? Would you be wounded if I never sent you flowers? And Pickering says, of course not. And Harrison says, then why can't a woman be like you? And then Harrison says, if I were hours late for dinner, would you bellow? If I forgot your silly birthday, would you fuss? Would you complain if I took out another fellow? And Pickering says, never. And Harrison says, then why can't a woman be like us? It's the mysterious world of women. And guys, here's what I want you to know, okay? When it comes to women, we don't get it. Not nearly enough. Naturally, we don't get it. Look at letter A on your outline. Write this down, okay? Immature men assume that women see life the way they do. Immature men assume that women see life the way they do. It is a common masculine mistake, but it is a major mistake. There's one young man for his first Christmas that he had with his wife that they celebrated together. He didn't get it at all. You know how some people exchange gifts and they'll give the smaller gifts and save the big one, the main one for last? Well, the moment came when his wife presented the main gift that she had bought for him, and it was fishing gear, okay? It was a great gift because he loved to go fishing, okay? It was a home run for her gift. And then he presented his main gift to her. It was in an envelope, and she opened it. It was a 24-month membership to a woman's gym. He was waiting for the wow, but there was no wow. He realized real quickly he was light years from wow. And then when he saw tears in her eyes, he knew he was in big trouble. And at that moment, he thought, I don't get it. I love to work out at the gym. That was the way his 25-year-old mind thought. Guys, when you're young, there's a lot of elasticity, a lot of time for forgiveness. But listen, when a man who's 10 to 15 years into marriage, and he still says, I don't know what my wife wants from me, that is an immature man. He doesn't get it. He is actually making a statement about himself. He only knows one way, his way. And that doesn't work with a woman. It's just a mark of immaturity. Secondly, write this down. Real men, the kind who get it, know that women do not see life the way they do. And they work at recognizing and appreciating the differences. Now write that word work down, and you might want to circle it, okay? That is not only the conclusion of marriage counselors and social scientists everywhere in the world today, but that wisdom has been around for thousands of years. In fact, the Dr. Phil of the first century, his name was Peter, had this to say. He said, "Husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way, as with a weaker vessel, since she is a woman, and grant her honor as an equal partner in the grace of life." Now, that is an amazing statement for 2,000 years ago. Okay, this is a fisherman speaking who finally got it. Notice two things about that statement, all right? Peter's encouraging guys to get outside themselves to live with a woman. The principle applies if you're dating a girl or if you're married. In an understanding way is the key. In other words, do not assume anything naturally. Why? Well, because she's a woman. She's not a man. She thinks different. She feels different, acts different. Her world is different. And you're going to need all the outside helpful understanding that you can acquire if you're going to live in an empowered and energized relationship with a woman. Your first instinct naturally with her is probably going to be wrong. Why? Repeat after me. Because she's a woman. Because she's a woman. Look closely at the verse again, okay? It also says, beware of taking advantage of her. Okay? It's implied in the little phrase, as with a weaker vessel. And that means she's weaker physically. That's not a put down, that's just the reality. Okay? Physically, she's weaker. Did you know that throughout history, immature men have used this weakness, that she's weaker physically. They've used it to intimidate and dominate in order to get their way. But listen up carefully, all right? Raw power never makes a man with a woman. It makes him a coward who is afraid of growing up. The better way, the masculine way, is to live with a woman in an understanding way. There are two timely insights from 1 Peter 3:7, all right? First of all, when it comes to a woman, what you don't know will always hurt you. What you don't know will always hurt you. And the next one is this. When it comes to a woman, men get down on what they're not up on. They get down on what they're not up on. Some of the brightest, smartest, most talented men in the world have struck out in life because they refuse to heed that wisdom. I want to give you an example. Now, this is an extreme example to make the point. And it's from the life of a young man named Robert Howard. In many ways, Robert was a man who had it all right? He was a great athlete, a two-time All-American at the University of Arkansas. He was a two-time Olympic track star in the triple jump. He had a great mind. He was about to finish medical school. He married Robin Mitchell, a bright, intelligent young woman who was also in medical school. In fact, she was doing a chief residency in neurosurgery. Now, you would assume if you brought these two people together, Robert, an Olympian, and Robin, a resident in neurosurgery and a graduate of Harvard University, that with all that talent and all that success and all that intelligence, that their relationship would naturally be as successful as their lives individually. Now, guys, you would assume that. And I think they assumed it too, and that was their mistake. Assuming anything with the opposite sex can be costly to you. One Saturday morning, the police found Robert on the 10th floor of the medical school about to jump to his death, which he did. They went to Robert and Robin's home to inform Robin of his death. They found her stabbed to death by Robert. The note they found said this: "I am sorry, Robin. I did not respect your independence. I'm a man in fear of losing things. I miss you loving me, being excited about me. Why can't we love each other the way we both deserve to be loved?" That's a great question. How do you answer that question after two unbelievably talented lives have been wasted? Here's the way I would have answered it. Robert, you could have loved her the way she deserved. You could have, if you would have lived with her in an understanding way. But instead, you prove the principle that men get down on what they're not up on. All right, guys, let's get up on women, all right? You want to? You want to learn some stuff? Let's educate ourselves. Let's have some fun doing it, all right? I want to give you 4 things that every man should know about a woman. Now, this is not an exhaustive list, but these are 4 very important things a man should know about a woman. Here's the first one. Number 1, you need to know that there is a gender difference. Now, have y'all discovered that yet? There is a gender difference. There are lots of similarities between the sexes, but there are also a lot of differences. Women are very different. They're wired differently. In fact, at a genetic level, neurobiologists claim that there are over 100 million differences between men and women. We mature differently. Girls who are age 17 function at about the level of a mature adult. Boys who are 17, well, not so much. Our slant on life is different. Okay, men are action-oriented. We're action figures. Women are relationship-oriented. You see that in every arena of life. At a football game, fathers and mothers cheer differently for their sons. Men are cheering for them to perform better, all right? Run faster, hit harder. What are the moms doing? They're cheering not for any of those things. They're cheering is about helping him to feel better despite, his performance. It's okay, honey. It's all right. You'll do better. Now, men don't get that, all right? Men and women's brains are different, physiologically different. Women's brains operate more holistically. Women's brains operate more globally with both hemispheres working together. It's almost like a high-speed computer, okay? They physiologically work faster. That's why women's brains are able to take in so many more things in one moment than men's. You see, men's brains operate more specifically in one hemisphere than the other. And it kind of switches back and forth, okay? And because of that, we are able to focus on things more intensely. And because we can move between hemispheres, we can shut out distractions, and sometimes we get criticized for shutting out those distractions, right? Women's brains, think of it like this. Women's brains are kind of like radar, just kind of taking everything in, okay? Just whoa, whoa. Men's brains are like a laser beam, intense focus. We can burn a hole right into one point. That's why when it comes to something as intimate as lovemaking, a wife can be with you and enjoying you sexually, but her radar's still up. Whoa, whoa. She's processing all kinds of things. She's thinking, did I pack little Jacob's lunch? Are the children asleep? Is the door locked? Is that our dog barking? Now, she can do all of that while still maintaining the integrity of the moment. And then at the most inopportune time, she can say to her husband, honey, did you hear that? Now, that's her radar brain. But she's asking a husband whose laser beam brain at that moment has shut out every other reality in the universe except for one, Men and women speak differently, all right? Women have a gender-coded language. A magazine supporting this fact said this, take the word fine. This is a word women use at the end of an argument when they feel they are right and can't stand to hear you argue any longer. Fine means that a man should shut up. Take the phrase 5 minutes. This is actually a half hour for a woman. Now, it is the equivalent to the 5 minutes that your football game is going to last before you take out the trash. So, women think it's an even trade. What about the word nothing? Nothing actually means something. In fact, a man should be on his toes when his wife says nothing. Nothing is typically used to describe the feelings a woman has of wanting to turn you inside out, upside down, and backwards. Nothing usually signals the start of an argument that will last 5 minutes and end with the word fine. How about the words go ahead with a raised eyebrow? Okay, now, guys, for a woman, this is not permission, it's a dare. And if you mistake it for permission, you're going to know what will happen, right? There's a gender difference. And just consider this fair warning, okay? I'm giving you fair warning. Secondly, write this down, there is a need difference. There's a need difference. Now, if I were to say about us as men, all right, if I were to say this, one of the major needs of a man is sex, okay? Would you say I was telling you the truth? Okay, guys, raise your hand if you, okay, I just want to see if you're here, okay. Thank you. Well, women would have the same response when I tell them what their needs are. What we're about to look at, they'd say, that's it, that's me. In fact, they'll say to me, and they have said to me, please tell the men that. I'm kind of the liaison, okay? Please tell them that. Okay, so here are the 4 top needs of a woman. Now, these are not all, but the 4 top ones, I believe. And when you speak to these needs and you get it and measure your performance with your wife based on these 4, then you're going to feel that sense of success that I'm talking about, way more than just an afternoon delight, okay? So the first one is security. The first one is security. Women have a deep need for security. They have a huge need to feel safe and protected, especially in 2 areas. She needs to feel safe financially, and she needs to feel safe relationally. Financially and relationally. Those are the 2 areas. With women working and some women earning more than their husbands, it's easy in the 21st century to think that financial security is not really a need of a woman. But guys, listen, even if the woman is out earning her husband, just knowing that her husband can take care of her and provide for her is still one of her greatest needs. Modern men don't get it. But when a woman thinks she is not safe financially with a man, it diminishes her sense of security and her respect for her husband. A woman needs to know that her husband can take care of her financially in a way that says she doesn't have to work for them to survive. So that when kids come along, she has the option of being freed up to be what instinctively most women want to be, and that is a mother. In a way that says when old age arrives, she needs to know that you've figured out a way to be safe so you can finish those years together. And when those things are not true, what she'll feel instead is instead of a sense of pride, is a sense of loss and anxiety and pain. Security also means she needs to feel safe with you, okay? Honesty is absolutely critical in a relationship with a woman. Honesty is critical. Guys, you have to tell the truth all the time. All the time. The minute she finds you lying to her, doing something and hiding it behind her back, she'll think, how can I trust anything he says? Honesty is critical. Keeping your word makes her feel safe. Following through with a promise makes her feel safe. Reassuring her of your love on a daily basis makes her feel safe. If you really want to touch this need, just try this, okay? With your wife, just draw close to her, look in her eyes and say, I want you to know that I love you and I will never, ever leave you. When my wife and I were going through a difficult time a few years ago, I would say this to her. I would say, I love you no matter what. I love you no matter what. I am not going anywhere. And that makes a woman feel safe. At that moment, you reaffirm your commitment before God, and at the same time, you touch her at the very core of this need for security. Security is one of the greatest needs of a woman. A second need is conversational companionship. Conversational companionship. It's through conversation that a woman experiences the life of the man she loves, and he gets to experience hers, and that is a deep need for a woman. Conversation is what a woman often gets from us before marriage. In fact, if you're in an intense dating relationship right now, you're giving your girlfriend this without even knowing it. Okay, you're talking a whole lot, and she's loving it. You're spending a lot of time interacting and doing fun things together, and you're talking. You may not even be aware of it, but man, she is drinking it in. And the thing is, if you marry her, she's going to think that that's going to continue. It's that kind of conversation where she deeply connects with you. And it can disappear quickly in a marriage when the pace of life and crowded schedules and a pressing career and kids dry up that kind of conversation. Researchers who probe into marriage always find women offering this complaint. It's the number one complaint in marriage. You know what it is? My husband won't talk to me. And you say, well, I am talking to her. Well, maybe, but sometimes it's just about superficial things. Just stuff, the mechanics of life. It's the kind of conversational companionship that provides a deep connection between your life and hers. She feels current with your world, you're current with hers, and when that kind of conversation dwindles in a woman's life, listen, so do her feelings of love for a man. They go hand in hand. Here are a couple of things you can do to meet her need of conversational companionship. First of all, guys, I want to encourage you to schedule regular dates with your wife. Regular dates with your wife. Now, regular is a whole lot more than every 6 months, okay? It could be just a little getaway at night. Doesn't have to be big, okay? You don't have to spend a lot of money on this. It doesn't even have to require a whole lot of time. It could be just a couple hours. You get away, and you sit and you talk about what's going on in your world and her world, and you just kind of unwind life together. And you got this focused time when you tell your wife what you're dreaming about for you personally and for the family, and what you're thinking about and what you're enjoying. And those are the moments you rediscover one another. And that connects enough to bridge your life from that moment to the next island date that you have. That's how you manage the chaos. Secondly, take at least 3 mini 2 to 3 day getaways. Take at least 3 mini 2 to 3 day getaways. Just you and her, okay? Nothing expensive. Just an overnighter somewhere. In driving there and driving back, you can problem solve and plan. And when you're there, you can play. And it becomes a refreshment, an oasis in the midst of frenzy. If you avoid those oasis moments and let life keep carrying you downstream on a raging current, then you're going to look up one day and she will not know you and you will not know her. And for a woman, that equals the loss of love. Conversation and the feelings of love go hand in hand. She needs a conversational companion to stay in touch and stay in love. Number 3, a third great need of a woman is significance. Significance. Now, you could substitute a word for that, significance. You could use the word value or important. She needs to feel important or appreciated or highly esteemed. It's not so much significance in the world's eyes that she craves. She craves it in your eyes, her man. Look again at 1 Peter, okay? It says, husbands, grant your wives honor as an equal partner in the grace of life. Now, do you see that, guys? A paraphrase could be, make her feel significant. Why? Because she is equal to you. So let her feel that. Let her know that you know that, and you honor her for that. Now, you can do that in little words or of praise where you compliment her character or the way she does things, who she is. You can tell her this. Guys, this is a great line. Write this down. You can tell her, honey, coming home to you is the best part of the day. Well, that's great. Write that down. Come on, guys. Coming home to you is the best part of the day. That makes her feel special. A little thing like that can make her feel significant. You can do that with surprise gifts or maybe just a note that you leave on her dresser. You can do it by including her in big decisions in your life, okay? Maybe something at work where you value her opinion and you ask her, you say, what do you think I should do? That makes her feel important. You value her. You see her as an equal. That makes her feel significant. The one thing a man must guard against over time is beginning to take their wives for granted. Okay, just using them, presuming upon them, and overlooking the million little things that a wife does that makes life better for them. You assume that she's supposed to do those things, and you take them for granted. Forgetting special days like birthdays and anniversaries. Or, how about this? You remember them, but you act like it is a pain to honor her. You feel more of a sense of duty rather than a masculine adventure, a chance to breathe life into her soul. Women for generations have been asking, am I important? And they don't really want to hear it from the world. They want to hear it from their man in a way that he is doing it passionately and not something that he just kind of checks off his to-do list. Anniversary cards, annual dinner at. She wants to feel like it's an adventure for you. Number 4, a woman also needs affection. She needs affection. Now, I don't mean sex, unfortunately, guys, okay? For a woman, it is different, okay? In some ways, it's a little more challenging. Maybe a better word for affection is treasuring. Treasuring. Okay, research tells us that affection is the number one need women have in marriage. Displays of affection that communicate that she is important. Now, how do you do that, okay? One way would be with hugs. Okay? Have you ever noticed how women just hug each other? You ever notice that? You know what they're doing? They're giving each other what they want. Just a little display of affection. And they love for you to look in their eyes in the morning before you leave for work and say, I love you. They love little notes of affirmation. The smallest of things sometimes means the biggest of things to a woman. When you leave a little note in a surprise place and you say, you're special to me. Maybe on the vacuum cleaner. No, I didn't say that. No, I didn't say that. If you leave a little note somewhere that's a surprise for her, that says, you're special to me. Just wanted to see if y'all are listening, okay? Or you call her up in the middle of the day and you say, hey, I've been thinking about you. When I call my wife up in the middle of the day, I mean, things are so busy here, they're so hectic. When I call her up from my office and say, hey, you want to meet me for lunch? It's like we're dating all over again. Really? Where? You know, it's almost like she wants to go home and take a shower and get dressed and cleaned up, you know. And I'm thinking, it's just that little gesture means so much to her. I can hear it in her voice. Sending her flowers, kissing her before you go to work and then when you come home, complimenting her on her work or in a career or around the house, praising her character. How about this? You can go shopping with her. You're going to hate it, but she's going to love you a little more for it. Praising her before her friends and especially before her kids. Praising her publicly is an unbelievable display of affection. Surprising her maybe once a year with something way out of the ordinary. It's an anniversary, and rather than handing her a card, you read a poem that you've written. It's her birthday, and rather than just taking her out like you've always done for the last 20 years for a meal, you know, then she walks in the house, and there are friends all over the house, and family you've flown in. There's a big party. Take her on a surprise vacation. She comes home, the bags are already packed. Do something once a year that is a display of affection that tells how important she is to you. Now, those are the top 4 needs of every woman on the planet, and I think they get expressed in different ways, and you and I may not personally connect with them, but that's because we're a man, and she's a what? She's a woman. Okay. You have to get out more out of your man cave to get it. You have to get into her world. Now, for the guy in sales, maybe this will communicate to you. She is your number one customer, and this is what she needs from you. She's your number one client. And if you get it, and unfortunately some guys never do, then what you'll do is you'll use these 4 needs to measure how you're doing with this moment, all right? Think of it this way. You're the quarterback, all right? Write these plays on your wristband. And just go over them, okay? Am I making her feel secure? Am I making her feel significant? Have we spent some time talking together about our world? Have I shown her some display of affection recently? And if all lights are green, you're doing good. But if some big red lights come on, then you're undercutting her sense of self-worth and love for you. Now look at letter C on your outline, okay? There's another difference. There is the scoring difference between men and women. The scoring difference. Men and women score their relationship differently. In his book, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, John Gray made the scoring difference very popular. I'm going to give it to you in a simplified version, but men, know this, men score their relationship with a woman on the basis of size. So that sounds like us, right? We score our relationship on the basis of size. In other words, the bigger the acts of love, the better and more points a man will award to a woman when she loves him. But women score the relationship with a man simply on the basis of love. regardless of the size of the act. In other words, all acts of love for a woman are equal. Okay, here's how it works for a man, okay? He thinks if he takes out the trash, he'll get 1 point. But then he thinks if he takes her to a nice restaurant that night, he gets 10 points. And then he thinks if he takes her on a nice getaway, he'll get 100 points. This is how men naturally think. The bigger the thing, the more points. Now, using that scoring system, a lot of guys will work hard and try to buy their wife's love with a few big gifts while ignoring all the little things. Do you see where we're headed with this? Now, guys, write this down. Nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could be further from the truth. This is how women will score. That's not how women will score love. They score all gifts of love the same. This is how they do it. If you take out the trash, you get 1 point. Take her to dinner, you get 1 point. Take her to Cabo, you get 1 point. Now that seems totally alien to a man. Doesn't make sense, but that's how a woman thinks. Now, guys who work 50, 60, 70 hours a week jobs to provide a home and college and stuff for the kids, nice things for her, they think they're getting hundreds of points. You know how many do they get? 1 point. For that kiss you gave your wife, as you're going out the door on the way to your 50, 60, 70 hour a week job, you got 1 point. That's amazing, isn't it? I want to give you a quiz to see if you understand what I'm saying, okay? Here it is. Your wife cooks dinner for you, and it's your favorite dinner. Now, how many points do you give her? 10 points? 15? Now, this is you, okay, awarding her points. All right, you get lost driving, and your wife is sitting next to you, and rather than blaming you, she says, honey, we would have never seen this beautiful sunset if you had taken the direct route. How many points do you give her? Yeah, 25, 50. All right, you come home on a Friday night, and your wife says, sweetie, I took the kids to Mother's, and I went out and I bought some massage lotion and this little nightie, emphasis on little nightie just for you. How many points are you going to give her? 1,000 points. Yeah, that was quick, man. That's how men score. Now, on the flip side, you say to your wife, I love you before you leave for work. How many points? 1 point. You give your wife $300 one Saturday morning. You tell her that when she comes home, you'll have the house clean. Go shopping. How many points? 1 point. You tell her you're taking her to a castle in Europe for 1 month. How many points? 1. Hurts, doesn't it? Now, guys, that's how you fill your wife's love bank. And you might think, well, man, at that rate, it'll never get full. We'll have to declare bankruptcy. Yeah, it will. Just stop swinging for the fence every time you get up for bat and try to get more base hits. There's nothing wrong with swinging for the fence. Go big. Swing, go for the long ball. But stop trying to hit it out of the park and striking out so much. Try for base hits. One more difference, the personality difference. The personality difference. We are all a different personality, not just men and women, respectfully, but every one of us has a different personality. Personality is a lifelong imprint, and it's not going to change in you or your woman. It's God-given. Here's the question. Do you know your wife's or your girlfriend's personality? Have you come to terms that this is a personality that she will have for the rest of her life? Can you name that personality? Do you know the strengths of it? Are you aware of what may be the weaknesses? Now that's what we're going to do. Not now, but in the next session. But I need you to help me help you, okay? And so look at the Die to Live application project at the end of your outline. This is the first in a series of application projects, okay? There are 2 general personality tests at the end of your outline. One for you and one for your girlfriend or your wife. You might say, well, I don't have either one. Well, yeah, okay. Well, you got some women that you work with or some friends. And you can just say, hey, I've been given an assignment and you're a woman. Can you help me with this? And don't use it as a pickup line, guys, okay? But just say, hey, I'm just trying to understand women. You being a representative from Venus, could you help a Martian, okay? All right, so here's what I want you to do, okay? 2 general personality tests. And on the side that says your personality, take each line and check one thing that describes you, the 4 options given. Now, don't spend, an hour looking at one line, okay? Just first thing that pops up, oh, see, yeah, that's me. And that's probably going to take you about 15 to 20 minutes. Now, when you finish, you'll turn it over to the side that says scoring your personality test. Use the scoring on the front page and assign it to its place on the back page. Now, the descriptives of you are rearranged on the back page, okay? So you're going to have to read and be sure you get them in the right column. Be careful when you transfer the boxes. But when you total them, at the bottom, one will probably have more than the other 3. Now, don't worry about what it means, okay? We're going to talk about that next time. I just want you to take the personality test and take it with your girlfriend or your wife or just a friend that you work with or a sister or cousin, whatever, okay? Now, how do you do it, okay? How do you actually implement this? So let me give you some recommendations. Take your wife or your girlfriend out to dinner or coffee, whatever. Find a quiet place. And the first thing you'll do is this. Share with her the 4 needs we talked about today. You can take your workbook with her and share. Say, hey, I just want to know, are those your top 4 needs? Are these important to you? Now, guys, I don't want you to just accept this from me. I want you to, confirm it with her, okay? Ask her about security, financially and relationally. Is that a need you have? How about significance and needing affection and conversational companionship? Explain what that means. And whatever she says, just listen, all right? Don't react. Work on that. Don't react. Just interact. Okay. And then ask some clarifying questions. Well, why is that so important to you? Where have I done well? And then I challenge you to ask this question. Where have I not done so well? And you're just trying to understand her world, okay? And then ask her this, honey, what is your number 1 need in our relationship? Ask her specifically, how can I best meet that need? Okay? You got it. You don't have to have all these questions, but you see where we're headed here, okay? Now, when you finish, tell her that your project for next week is taking this personality test and ask her if she'll take it with you. And that's what you're going to bring back next week. Now, I want to tell you what's going to happen, okay? I believe she will appreciate that you took her out on a date, first of all, but also you had a substantive conversation about her world. She's going to think, that's good stuff he's learning in Quest. She will be impressed that you're becoming a psychologist doing personality tests. She's going to be so impressed. And guys, how many points are you going to get? 1 point. That's it, guys. See you next time.